Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. So today in this video, we are going to see about how JMeter works. So we'll go through each and every step of the JMeter process, starting from the start of the test, creating request, sending them as the response, sending them to the server, getting the response, getting the results, and getting the feedback, and if required we're going to create new requests on top of the existing request, and then we are going to collect the data, and finally we are going to create the report. So we will see all these process individually using step by step. So before we move on to the video, this is me, Vasan Shanmugam. I welcome you all to my Little Sly YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, share the video with your friends, peers, colleagues, and add your comments and questions in the feedback in the comment section. So the very first step, which is the start. So the step one is start. So during initialization, the JMeter sets up its environment, or we have to set up the JMeter environment, which includes any necessary configurations and plugins which are required for the testing. So that's part of the step one, where the users typically have to create the test plan using the JMeter's GUI, or by writing it directly using the JMeter's script format, that is through JMX. And the test plan outlines the sequence of actions, the HTTP request, their FTP downloads, database queries to be executed during the test. So the first step, that is the start part, is where we have to come up with the test plan. And then moving on to the step two, which is creating requests. So we have to create request to the target server and simulate the number of users. So how are we going to do this? So JMeter generates requests, or we have to use JMeter, or by using JMeter we have to generate requests based on the samplers defined in the test plan. And the samplers represent different types of requests, because JMeter can simulate HTTP request, or JDBC request, or FTP request, or any request that it supports. And the JMeter simulates multiple users. We all know JMeter is a multi-threaded tool, so it simulates multiple users by creating threads, where each and every thread, individual thread, represents a virtual user. And the thread group setting determine how many threads to simulate and how they are distributed over time. So all these we have in the thread group setting, and the JMeter sends these requests to the target server, concurrently simulating real world behavior. And coming to the step 3, which is the response, the server response. So the target server processes the incoming request which we have prepared in the step 2. So the target server processes the incoming request from JMeter, and it executes the corresponding actions as defined in its application logic. So that's what in the step 3 it happens. So the server starts to respond to the request that has been sent by the target, that's from the JMeter. So server the target server generates responses based on the executed actions, and these responses may include HTML content. So when we get the response, they might come as HTML content or JSON data, the XML documents or binary files, depending on the nature of the request. So depending on the nature of what request we send, we might get HTML content, we will get JSON data, we'll get XML content, or the binary files. And when it comes to the fourth step, which is saving the response. So JMeter saves all the responses. So as the server sends the responses back to JMeter, JMeter captures and stores these responses. So that's the critical task that has been done by JMeter. So JMeter, it does not only send the requests, it also receives the responses, and finally it captures and stores the responses along with the data. So each response is saved along with the metadata. So the metadata includes the response times, their response code. So we all know we have come across a lot of response codes, the 200, the 404, the 400, 302, multiple response codes. So the JMeter gathers the response codes as well, which we call as HTTPS status code. The response size, so the amount of the size of those data, like in bytes, in kilobytes, in megabytes, and any other associated headers along with the response. And moving on to the step 5. So JMeter gathers the data to calculate the statistical info. So JMeter, that's a step 5. So JMeter collects various performance metrics from the captured responses, which includes response time, as I told you in the previous step, which it includes response time, their latency, the throughput, the amount of errors. So that's very important. It also captures the amount of errors and the amount of resource that has been utilized during the load test or during any testing that this JMeter does. So all these data, it's been aggregated and they are calculated by collecting those or by calculating those statistical information such as the average response time, their median, the minimum and the maximum response time for each metric. So for each metrics, all these values are calculated, all these statistical informations are calculated, they're collected and they're calculated, and we get a consolidated report of them. So we get the minimum, maximum, average response time, the medium, the standard deviation, this, that, and lots of information is collected, and it's not only collected, it's been calculated by JMeter. On top of this, JMeter calculates other metrics, like I told you, like the standard deviation and the percentiles, to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the system's performance. So when it comes to percentile, JMeter in the aggregate report, it comes up with the 90th percentile, the 95th, the 99th percentile as well. So in fact, we have a separate video on how this percentile works. So now we are in the step 6. In step 6, so depending on the test plan configuration, that is, for example, the number of iterations or duration of the test, JMeter loop back to step 2 to continue the simulating behavior. So that's what is happening during the step 6. So depending on the test plan configuration, that is the number of iterations or the duration of the test, JMeter loops back to step 2 to continue the simulating behavior. So this iterative process allows testers to observe how the system behaves under sustained overload over time. So that's what the main purpose or the main objective of using JMeter is. And when it comes to the end of the test, so once the test criteria are met, that is, we have achieved the SLA or we have achieved a better performance time, JMeter concludes the test execution, or we conclude the test execution by using the JMeter's result. So JMeter stops generating any new request and it allows any outstanding request to complete. So that's what the JMeter does. And then finally, the last part, which is the reporting. So after the once the test is concluded, JMeter generates comprehensive reports summarizing the test results, and these reports typically include the graphs, the tables, and any statistical summaries that provide insights into the performance of the target system under various load conditions. So we all know we does not stop with stop the test by running just one set of user load. We do multiple iterations of load with the same load, by scaling the load, by scaling up, by scaling down. So we do lots of load to the target system with different load conditions. So we collect all of them. We include the graphs, we include tables, we include the statistical summaries and everything, which provides insights to the performance of the target system. And when it comes to the last step, which in the reports user can analyze the reports to identify the performance bottlenecks, to detect their errors, and make any informed decisions about the system improvements. And by following all these steps and analyzing results, we can effectively evaluate the performance, the scalability, and reliability of the application and the services. So, this is how JMeter works. And I believe this video would be very useful to you. So, until I meet you in another interesting video, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little Sla.